The meeting. Yes, I know, because I'm the one recording it. Okay. I'm going to attempt to screen share. Is it recording still? Yep, I guess so. The only option is to stop or pause, so let's go for it here. All right, what do I want? I want my dog to stop barking in the background. All right, how does this work? I'm hoping that this pops up for people, because right now I'm just seeing black screen, but hopefully that'll... Is anybody else seeing a slide?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
No,
It's
not
just
yet.
Okay. It may take a moment because it's showing that I'm sharing. I know my microphone's disabled. This is why I tried doing this half an hour ago. How patient should I be here? All right, well, I was just going to start off with pictures of all of you wonderful people river dipping. But I can start talking and we'll see if that loads for us. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. I actually had to go to the screen. And now I gotta minimize that. Come on. Where are my windows? I need to see my little arrows so I can go from one to the next. Okay, great. All right, we all know that lovely lady. There's Karen. Okay, so officially starting here. So thank you, and I'm going to read from notes, so bear with me. I want to thank all of you guys for helping out with the Black River Action Team by volunteering to be a river dipper in our water quality monitoring program. Your time and efforts continue to enhance our understanding of conditions in the watershed. That's why we do this. It also helps the state of Vermont and the various municipalities to help with their zoning, their planning, even their maintenance of things. You know, we have a lot of eyes on the water, and we'll see. We will have people who find stuff like, you know, an oily sheen on the river that happens to be indication that there's an underground storage tank that might be leaking. We've had people who've discovered cyanobacteria blooms, blue-green algae blooms. We have had people who've discovered, you know what, that culvert really looks like it's falling in. We've found erosion sites. There's been you know, beauty that you guys are able to find out there, but there's also your eyes and ears and noses on the water too. If you smell something odd, I can often bring that to the attention of our basin coordinator, which leads me to the next thing, which is that the state of Vermont assembles what's called a tactical basin plan every 5 years for each of the drainage basins in the state. It's sort of a guide for development and planning and zoning, general improvement and protection of the waterways. And there we go, that's another one. And our Black River is in Basin 10 for the state of Vermont, along with the Ottauquechee River. And 2023 is the target year for the newest tactical basin plan to be released after 5 years of implementing projects, continuing monitoring, providing feedback to the state, all of that. And the work that you folks are doing is really helping to craft that plan. So in 2012, right after Tropical Storm Irene, I started collecting samples with just a few volunteers spread out over 11 sites. Most of them were in Springfield, one of them, Tolls Dam in Wethersfield. And we are now up to, fast forward, this is year 11, and we are up to 50 stream and river sites all around the watershed that are sampled by you, a cadre of volunteers. Now, some of you and a few folks who aren't on the call also sample 6 swimming holes every week, all summer, for bacteria. And there's also a crew, some of you are on here, who take readings at 7 lakes and ponds every week, all summer long. It's a lot of work and a lot of organization, a lot of logistics. Everybody, including me, works full time or has other obligations. So I appreciate every one of you and the time and effort that you put into this. Now, of those 50 river and stream sites, Chris and Vicki, I don't think they're on the call tonight. If you are, sing out. That's Vicki in the background. Let's see who else is on here. Oh, there's Diane Diana's not doing it this year, but that's great. Brooke, Katie Parent and her family will be doing that, Brooke. And there's my son Armando. That's at Tolls Dam, which is where Randy and Mary Beth will be sampling. And he does have one of those bottle on a stick, fancy, expensive devices. We'll get into the technical aspects of those things. Oh, so there he is again. That's the one that I put together for our sites. It's a retractable pool skimmer. I took the net out and zip tied a chip bottle to it. That's our very expensive piece of equipment. Oh, so of the 50 stream and river sites, 16 of those are going to have special bottles that will be filled with samples that are getting picked up for delivery to the state of Vermont's environmental lab. So a lot of you guys on here will have at least one site that needs those special bottles. The remaining sites that we dip of those 50 are sampled as a means of pre-screening to see if our results collected as laypersons, lay monitors, to see if our results consistently, exceed levels or raise any flags for the state's basin coordinator. Her name is Marie Levesque Caduto, and she manages the Ottaquechee Basin, the Ottaquechee watershed, and the Black River watershed, both of which combine to become Basin 10. So the tactical basin plan that she puts together is pretty comprehensive, and a lot of the recommendations in that plan are based on water quality data that we've collected since 2012. And I'll keep you guys all posted on when that plan is ready for public review, because she'll be doing at least one, probably online or hybrid presentation of that plan. So for you folks dipping the samples that go to the state lab, we're going to do a second shorter training session right after this one. So folks who don't have the lab bottles, and I'll tell you who you are, at the end of this section of the training, you guys can log off if you want. You're welcome to stay on. But the lab bottle training, it's not super complicated. You'll just need some good collection habits, which we're going to go over. So the folks who will need to stay, if you could, that'll be Jean and Mike, Emily and Kimberly, if she's available, Kale, Kathy Shambo, who I don't think has made it onto the call, Catherine, who I don't think is on the call, Christina, if you're on, Dodie, Kate, Sal couldn't make it on, he let me know, Mike, if you can stay on a little longer, Tom and Bill. I didn't see Thomas in the invitation list, but he might have snuck in with a bunch of others. So if you guys can hang in there a little bit longer after this session, we'll just cover the lab bottle session. Should be pretty quick. All right, on to the meat and potatoes. So whether you are doing the pre-screening dip or the state lab dip, my number one safety really is your concern. My number one concern is your safety. I'm not going to edit that one out. So this is Armando in my do not slip slide, because his ankle is sopping wet. He decided to hop down to the lowest point where he was going to put in that dipper stick, and he slipped on a wet rock and soaked his shoe right and his leg right up to his ankle. Didn't get hurt, thank goodness, but I don't know if you can tell, he's kind of sucking his cheeks in and sticking his tongue out because he doesn't like getting pictures taken when he's made a goof. So just be careful out there. If you don't feel confident for any reason, skip the dip, do it another day. That could be wet or slippery terrain, stormy weather. Please don't go out when it's, thunder and lightning. Poisonous or thorny plants if you're concerned. Personal illness or injury, you're just recovering from hip surgery or something. Let's talk. We'll see if we can't either have a buddy go with you or have somebody pick up your dip for you that rotation or for the rest of the summer if you've had hip surgery. So the dipping is done every 2 weeks. And it would be ideal if you could pick one of the 2 weekend days that I'm targeting to collect your samples so that we can more easily navigate pickups and any other kind of coordination. I was going to send out a calendar earlier today, and I was working and I just got super busy, did not have a chance to do that, but I will send that out. If you can let me know ahead of time, we're going to be gone that weekend, or woke up this morning, I'm not doing good. If I can know ahead of time, like you got something planned, going away, got visitors coming, we can coordinate something different for pickup. But again, if I'm working full time and I need to get your samples, I need to be able to process them while they're still cold. So weekends tend to be best for me. But I'm happy to work with folks on that. And if we can coordinate, Fred will meet up with George and grab George's samples, and then Fred will meet at the house or something. We can work that out. So I'm not getting the lab bottles until the 14th. And they want us to start dipping pretty soon after that. So I'm hoping to get the lab bottles to you folks with the lab sites on the 15th or 16th, which is the weekend after Easter. So, and we'll figure that out. Either you can swing by the house, grab a bag that has your name on it with all your bottles in it, or if I'm going to be sort of kind of close to your area, maybe we can meet, or I can swing by your place, drop it on the porch. We'll have to see what works out best all around on that one. But we'll negotiate it. We'll make it work by working together. So the first dipping weekend would be April 22nd and 23rd. And you can, again, by all means, if Saturday works better for you that weekend, dip on Saturday, just give me a shout and I'll give you my cell phone number, and also a Google Voice number, which comes through my email. So I can get your message very quickly, even if I don't have any cell service. But you grab your sample, drop it where you're going to drop it, and then text it to me and just say, hey, samples are away. I'm all done with, Spencer Brook or wherever you're collecting. And that gives me time to know it's there, go grab it while it's cold, process it however I need to. And again, that's 50 sites, a lot of bottles, a lot of field sheets. So if I can try to make it all happen on one weekend, like every other weekend, that would be great. The next dipping weekend would be May 13th and 14th, because I'm booked solid the previous weekend. So May 13th and 14th. Now I realize that Sunday is Mother's Day. So if it's easier for you to dip on the Friday before or the Monday after, just let me know. The lab does pick up from me those special lab bottles on Thursdays, every other Thursday. So Friday, Monday, there's a little wiggle room in there, but let's talk about that. Whichever, on a case-by-case basis, whatever is going to fit your schedule, but still make the cut on the processing. So looking at the basic kit that I'll be giving you. Oh, this was another one of those awesome safety slides. Oh, so this is Mitchell out behind his house. That's 20 Mile Stream. And behind him, downstream, you can see the Black River. That's where 20 Mile Stream hits the Black River in Cavendish. So what he's doing is a bottle on a stick. He's on a very stable rock that he's used to see. He usually samples from that rock. He's got good sneakers with good grip. And we're at the field sheet finally. Of course, you can't read it. It's very small. Hopefully it's big enough that folks can read it without being too cramped on their screens. But the field sheet there's basic bottle instructions on the back of every sheet. So, and I'll show you the back in just a second. No, I won't show you right now because I did it. There you go. So for all samples, what's the basic method? La Rosa is the name of the lab. It's the La Rosa. Actually, it's not. The La Rosa Partnership Program is what we're using to send our bottles up to the lab. So if you have La Rosa or lab bottles, that would be that red box in the middle. But looking at the front of that sheet, there is the front where you will fill things in. And you'll see right in the middle there, it says, in this case, Gene and Mike. Gene and Mark. This is Spencer Brook, the lower site that you're used to sampling. So it's got your site name and it's got what I use as the identifier. And then, let's see, you'll have, just below that will be your name, collector name, obviously the date and the time. Can you guys see you can't see my mouse moving around on there, can you? Nope, I can't see it, so you probably can't either. All right, so you can see date and time. You will also see there's plenty of white space on there. If you guys see anything of note, or if you smell anything of note, or you hear, gee, there's somebody logging right nearby here. BRAT is not a regulatory organization. I'm not a big reporting person, but I am a let's find out what's going on person. So if we smell something, if we see something or hear something, make a note of it. Um, and then if it's worth us looking into or bringing it to the next level, like, there might be an underground storage tank that's leaking oil near here. We can smell fuel oil. Then that's definitely worth looking into. But, blue-green algae or beaver chew, because if there's a beaver dam being constructed on your stream, that'll affect your readings. So if there's beaver chewed wood nearby, that would be worth bringing up and mentioning it right on your field sheet. I had someone was actually doing a great job noting what birds they saw or heard, butterflies, dragonflies, other cool insects, saw a fish in the stream, anything like that. Put it right on there. Happy to have it. It adds to the narrative. Smelling the air, if the water smells a little funky, at certain times of the year it'll smell like river bottom, and that's just pretty natural. But there are other things that you'll get to know your site, and you'll get to know what it normally would smell like. During high flow, during low flow, you'll get a better sense of it the more times you visit your stream or river. Let's see. If you happen to have a phone or camera, feel free to snap a photo, and just like Diane did in that early shot that I showed you, try taking a stream selfie, a little picture of yourselves doing that. Kale, I had a couple of you and Nolan up there on Mile Brook, and I forgot to slide them in there. But those are very helpful in the final report that I do to the state. It's very helpful for PR if I'm going to put something out in the newspapers about what we're doing. Hey, if you see people with special T-shirts on, and those of you who don't have T-shirts, I'm in the process of getting them. If you see people out, pulling up water from the stream, this is what they're doing, and it's just nice to be able to put that out there. If you would prefer that your photo not be used, please let me know that. I will honor that. Let's see, and then we're going to look at there's the back, but you will get one of these, and you'll see there's flow estimation right in the middle here. I don't have one of those in front of me. That would have been too smart. But it'll give a little description of low flow, moderate flow, and high flow. I'm going to say 75 to 80% of your sampling will be done during moderate flow. If it's low flow or high flow, you're going to say, whoa, that's really low, or gosh, that's awfully high. If you're, I don't know, it's kind of high, I would go with moderate. If you're not sure, snap a photo. That's fine. And we'll get into some photos in a minute here, so you'll be able to see what I'm talking about in terms of flow. And the reason that the state wants a pretty good definition or description of flow, excuse me, is because that, you can probably tell, will affect their samples. If it's really low flow and one of the parameters that we're sampling for is pretty high, then that means that that particular chloride, for example, is really concentrated. If it's high flow, like right after a storm, and we're seeing high numbers, that's probably due to the flood having, or not the flood, the rain having washed in a lot of sediment or gunk from people's lawns, stuff from people's driveways, parking lots, road salt, that kind of thing. Flood we'll talk about too. Stay away during flood. Don't sample during flood. Let's see here. In years past, the state has asked us to collect what's called a storm sample. They want 8 samples, and in years past, they wanted 2 additional storm samples. So that would have been, toward the end of it's been raining for most of the day, or we just got a huge cloud burst, and now I'm going to go and see what the water's like. It's running pretty high at my site. I'm going to grab a sample, see what washed in. This year, they're not doing the 2 additional or separate storm samples. They're asking folks to just do the 8 samples, and 2 of them, if you can watch the weather and be like, yeah, we're going to 100%, we're just going to get some rain, might be an inch or 2 of rain. I'm going to check my site toward the end of that storm. Give the rain time to really wash stuff in, and then go grab your sample if it's safe. And you'll get to know your site and know, what you would consider safe and what you really don't want to go down there in terms of conditions. So if you can just kind of watch the rain and fold in a high flow and just mark it right on there, circle right on there, high flow. I expect to see almost all of them will be moderate. We may get a dry spell and you put down a low flow, but if you can do at least one that's during a high flow, if it happens within the weekend that you're going to be doing this, that would be great. We'll get into the other items. The other items are just a check mark. Just do a check mark when you've done the test or collected that sample. So here we go. So low flow would, you know, and again, you're gonna get to know your site. So you'll see what it looks like. You'll get a sense of when it's startlingly low or shockingly high. But exposed gravel, exposed banks, maybe where you would normally expect to be able to have your feet underwater, but now, you know, it's kind of low because look at that, you can actually step out onto the partially onto the bed. And then you've got, yep, this would be low flow. This is Toll's Dam. This was, remember the site with the photo with my son down there with the bottle on a stick in front of the dam? That would have been moderate flow. This is that same dam during low flow for obvious reasons. Yeah, here's another good one. You can see that some of those rocks in the middle have dark areas on them, dark spots that those rocks would normally expect to be underwater. You can see that they're kind of stained by years and years of being submerged. But in this case, all the banks are exposed. In moderate flow, the water would probably be at least covering most of the bed material. Most of those big rocks right in the middle of the stream would be, I would say, mostly covered. You can see that one rock. Now I can see that one rock. If you can't see my pointer, it's not going to help. I should learn how to draw little circles on here. What else have we got? Yeah, I would say this is also low flow. There's a rock in the foreground that looks like it's used to being a couple, 2-3 inches more water up its surface. And the face of that dam, I think if you look closely, you can see some kind of green filamentous plant material on there that would normally be underwater or submerged or totally wet. So that would be low. What did I have this one as? Oh, this is just Aldrich Brook. As I mentioned, every site's going to look different. Your first thought on this little stream might be, gosh, that's really low. But this teeny little brook, that's actually pretty moderate. Maybe even, I don't know about full, but that's for this tiny little brook, that's pretty moderate. The rocks that have moss on them, the moss is exposed and dry, but it doesn't look like you could actually walk, you know, a couple feet into the thing's only 2 feet wide, but it doesn't look like you could actually walk down in there on exposed gravel. But you'll get a sense of your specific site the more you visit. This time of year, I'm hoping we get more of those storm samples early because we're getting all the snow melt and the rainy events too. This guy, I have him marked down as standing on a low flow stream because as you can see, he's standing on gravel that's out into the stream bed, and those plants right near him would normally have been partially submerged. They would have, at least their roots would be wet. Not their roots, but the lower, maybe ½ inch to an inch of the bottom of the stem would be wet. And you can see that they're exposed in this. So I would consider this a low flow condition for that stream. Strangely enough, I'm not used to talking this much. And as it says on the pictures, moderate. The water is up to the edges of the stream, not flowing over it. You don't have a lot that's dry and exposed, and it's also not in a high flow stage where, you know, all the grass is waving in the water. So that would be a fairly moderate. And then these also would be considered moderate. You can kind of get a sense, you know, this guy's in the top picture, he's standing on the bed of the river, but he's ankle deep. The water's really going pretty much from bank to bank. It's not going up and over, but it's not up to the top of the bank. It's maybe pretty middle of the road, pretty moderate. And same with the bottom, even though the banks aren't as steep, it is, most of the bed material is covered, is another good guideline. And here you can see kind of the difference between same stream, same exact shot, same exact vantage and perspective, but different different days. Your low flow, you can see those rocks really are kind of exposed. You can see the edges. You'd be able to walk down onto the bed of the stream a little bit. And then under high flow conditions, rocks that would normally be maybe a little bit more exposed than they are pretty, maybe not submerged. Well, yeah, I guess the ones in the middle are submerged. I'm looking at that one particular rock that's got mossy covering over the top. I would think that it would normally not be right up to the bottom of the moss. So that I would consider that a high flow situation. And there's some more high flow because you can see the vegetation on the right side of the screen there. I don't know if you can see it really well, but it's definitely just this side of being submerged. So that's another look at that. We just had some rain. You can see raindrops having fallen off the trees. So it's just the tail end of a rainstorm. Good time to get out there and grab a sample as long as you're feeling safe. A couple more high flow scenarios there. You can see the water's up to the vegetation, but not dangerous. It's pretty much full bank to bank, top of the bank to the top of the bank. And not every stream will have the same, channel shape. Some of them have more gradual slopes, but you'll get a good sense. You can also see at the bottom there, it's kind of cloudy. That usually indicates there's some good stuff floating in there that's been washed in. Probably sediment because it doesn't look like a really urban stream. Let's see. Now in this, I'm going to make a photocopy of and include in everyone's, or I might just email this to you as its own little picture. You can keep it on your phone or whatnot. But this will explain how to sample. And we have very expensive, fancy equipment. I don't seem to have one with me. We usually have gelato jars. And I have them all labeled with your site name on them. So what you'll do is you will stand downstream of where you're going to sample. Make sure you have good solid footing, whether you're on waiting like the guy in the little drawing, or if you want to be if you're more comfortable at the side, it's safer from the side. You've got a bottle on a stick. If you're on a bridge, like some of you guys will be, you can lower a bucket. Yeah, Mike and Deb, you guys will have your Black River site will be dropping a bucket, and I'll provide you with one. Yeah, bucket. So you'll stand downstream, and in the case of the bridge, you'll want to stand on the upstream side of that bridge because you don't want anything that falls off. Gosh, pigeons like to be underneath bridges, for example. You don't want that stuff falling off and getting into your sample. So you go on the upstream side of your bridge, drop your bucket. Your bucket is not going to land like this on the water surface. I'll be shocked if you can get it to do that. Thrilled. I'll give you an award. But basically, if you're going to be using a bottle on a stick or one of my gelato jars or even one of the actual lab bottles like this little dude, you want to go, you don't want to capture surface water because that carries dust, carries pollen, carries sticks, bugs, leaves. So you want to get punched right down through that. And then the current's flowing this way. You want the current underneath the surface to be filling that bottle. And then you want to pop it right back up and out, again, trying not to get surface water. When you go down though, especially in low flow conditions, you don't want to hit the bottom because then you're going to dig up sediment and you're going to cloud things up and add that to your sample. That'll mess up the readings. So you want to just go right down below the surface. If you can do a U shape, great. Let the current fill it and then pop it right back up and out. And I'll get into the lab bottles in the second part of the training. Don't worry. Don't get ahead of yourself, Kelly. So basically a nice U-shaped motion as best you can, especially if it's low flow. You look for a little pothole in the river or stream. They say if you can get the same spot each time, terrific. If not, get within like 20 or 40 feet of where you keep it close to where you were. Don't go, well, I'm going to drive up the road, see if I can get a better site. Stick to within, I guess 50 feet would probably be the guidelines. So as close as you can to where you normally get it. Okay, I see, Karen, you got to head out. No problem, but I will see you. I'll make sure you get the recording. Then you can laugh at it. Okay. So yeah, try to get as close to the.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Take care. Thanks for stopping in.
Right.
Bye, hon. Yeah, essentially you're doing a U-shaped action. I will shut up for a second. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and unmute and pipe up. Or if we're good.
Kelly, I have a question. This is Kate.
Yeah. Hi, Kate.
Hi. Are we going to be doing the stuff online in addition to the paper, filling out the paperwork?
Only for the lab sites.
Okay.
And I think, did you do that one last year?
My husband might have done it, so I'll definitely need that update on the lab trainings. Yeah.
Yep, because you covered that Upper Trailside Brook site when Pam wasn't able to last year, I think, right? Or he did. Something like that. Yeah, we'll go over that in the second portion of the training for the lab bottles, definitely. But don't worry, we're going low tech for the for the non-lab sites. Let's see, and then collection containers. Flood stage. Yes, this is a great example of flood stage. You can see the water up into the trees, over the rocks, cascading, pounding. Just don't do it. It also isn't helpful for something like this is not helpful for lab results either, because you'll get so much stuff in there that all the results, all the levels will just be spiked right up. So it'll be off the charts, and it really will skew all the results. So it won't be helpful to us anyway. So don't risk it. So there's Jean at Spencer Brook. And I think we decided this would be a high flow, not flood, but this would be a high flow because you can see between her feet and where she's got the bottle on a stick, you can see some what should be land-based plants. Maybe some, I don't know if that's colt's foot or maybe some dock or something like that. Actually, in the boulders and the cobbles and the rocks in the water, under the water. So that I would have definitely said that was, and I think that was this time of year. She wanted to test out and see how that bottle on the stick worked. So I had her give it a shot. And the poles are a little bit flexible. So be prepared. If there's a bit of current, it's going to bend a little bit on you. But I wanted them lightweight and easy enough to handle. So we went with what we had. But yeah, there's a good high flow sample right there. The bottle on a stick is literally, in most cases, it's a Gatorade bottle that is duct taped to the end of a piece of PVC piping. If you find a better way, I think Karen, nope, she already logged off, but I think her husband had a neat idea on how to jury rig hers so it was a little more stable and more useful for the long haul. So if you find another way to do it, go for it. Or if you find a different orientation is easier for you, you can unattach, cut through the duct tape and then reattach it with either zip ties or more duct tape or whatever works best for you. I'm all about innovation. And then this was Carol, I think, doing the bucket routine. This is from the Shopping Plaza Bridge here in Springfield. And as you can see from the ripples in front of the bridge abutment, she is on the upstream side of that bridge. You want to drop it down, and with the gelato jars and with the bucket and the bottle on a stick, you get your dunk, you got to rinse, shake it, rinse it out 3 times. Essentially that's so that it doesn't have any dust from anything that's picked up, dog hair, dust or whatever. I don't have any dog hair in my life. Oh no. But it doesn't have anything left in it from in between, the 2 weeks in between your sampling times. And it also, if you're doing multiple sites, it doesn't carry over any water from the previous site. So if you can rinse it 3 times, and that'll be on the back of those field sheets too, to rinse 3 times. Excuse me. Let's see. So those are the two main types of additional sampling containers. And there's one of our handy dandy gelato jars. Yes, I got a lot of them donated. Don't worry, I didn't eat all that gelato, but I do have well over 150 empty gelato jars. Oh, let's see. So as a sort of proxy, since we're not sending all of our site samples to the lab, that 50 sites, oh, that's crazy. So what we're trying to do, we're going to do, we did these last year, we're going to do them again this year. They are test tablets that you would use in, you know, a spa or a pool. So we have a phosphate one. The instructions, everybody will get a set of the instructions. And I think this year we're going to go with the tubes that came with them. Halfway up that tube is the 5 milliliter mark. And you'll fill that tube to the 5 mil mark. But if you've ever filled a cup, like a narrow cup with water, you've noticed that there's a little bit of a curve to the bottom of the water. The surface of the water isn't completely flat. It curves down a little bit, especially the narrower the bottle, the more you see that little curve. So it's called the meniscus, the skin of the water surface. So the bottom of that curve should touch the 5 milliliter line as close as you can. I find that if I get too much and if I pour it out, I poured out almost the whole thing in no time. So a quick flick really helps you get just what you need. If you need to add a little bit more, a drip or two more, you can fill up the cap and just tap in a little bit with your cap. And then you would take a phosphorus tablet, push it out the back. They're a little bit brittle, so it might crumble on you. Just be careful when you pop it out. Pop it like right into the tube might help. And then you shake it, mix it, wait 5 minutes. So I recommend doing this one first so you can set that thing down while you're doing a couple of other tests. Because after you've waited the 5 minutes, then on the other side of the card will be a little like 4 or 5 colors that you can then pick and choose and see how close to one of the colors it is. And then you mark that down on your field sheet. I'm not super worried if it's like in between the two middle colors, or if it's kind of zero, but maybe if it's one of the really lower colors, I'm not too worried. As you can imagine, it's when it gets up into the dark blue, almost black. That's when maybe a picture. If you're a little concerned that it looks really high, take a photo. That'll be fine. You know, match it up to the actual card itself, and snap a little photo of, not really black, but there you go. So that lower one is just a dark blue, and then there's the sky blue, and then there's the light baby blue, and then there's white at the top, which is 0 parts per million, which we'd like to see 0, 1, 2, or 4. So the darker it is, the more, if you want to take a picture and text it, you can. Then the next one is, while that's cooking, there's the pH one that goes really quickly. And again, it's this one, you fill the tube up to the 10 milliliter line. That's the top of the bottle. You add 1 little pH tablet, shake it up. It might take a couple of minutes for it to shake. It's got to really disintegrate, and then match it up to the colors on the front. We're looking for, ideally, we're going to see stuff in the 6, 7, or 8 range, which is anywhere from yellow to one of the greens. I don't know if you can really see that on there. So if it's yellow and green, you're doing good. If it's more pinky blush, that's kind of low pH. And the more you get into your purples, that's the higher pH. That's also can be concerning. So again, if you're ever in question, by all means, just take a picture. Oh, there, I did that. Look at that. That's somewhere between a 7 and an 8. So that's good. That's good base color for water in a stream. And then our handy dandy thermometer. Yes, it's a meat thermometer. It is water resistant. I did have a volunteer once who put the whole thing, he opened it up. If you've ever used a meat thermometer, you take that pointy metal bit at the bottom and snap it out into position, set it in your water. Opening it up automatically turns it on, and you should get a Fahrenheit reading. If it comes up as Celsius, just jot it down with Celsius so I know, and I'll try to adjust that for you. We can figure that out. I had one guy who thought, okay, I'm going to just let it get the temperature while I'm doing other things. And he set the whole thing in the water because it has a little floaty thing on the end. And he knew he wouldn't lose it, but it ruined the electronics because these are made for high temperatures. They're made for meat. So it's okay if they get a spatter on them or something. But don't just set it in the water, please, because they will go bad. If you ever have any battery issues with these, let me know and I'll make sure to get you a fresh battery. And then once you're done with it, you don't have to dry it really. You can, it's not wipe it on your shirt or your pants or whatever is great. And then once you snap it back into position, it should shut itself right back off again and be ready for the next time. And then I already described how that's going to work. There is a hold button on that thing too, right in the middle. So if you're dipping it in the water and you don't want to get down on hands and knees to see the number, you could either take the reading from your Talenti jar, from your gelato jar, or put it down in there. And then the middle big button is the hold button. So you feel like, okay, wait 5 seconds, get a good reading, press the hold button, pick it up. There's your temperature. So you don't have to get down to water level to read the temperature. And then these, so goody. We're in the home stretch, guys. So the sample transport and drop off. These are huge catering coolers that I got. They are designed to be filled with ice and soda and beer and whatever else to keep it cold for hours, if not days. I'm not intending to keep things cold for days or to fill them to capacity. But the fine folks at the Ludlow Insurance Agency paid for one of these, and I got a grant to pay for the second one, the Vermont Watershed Grant. If you've ever seen people with those conservation license plates, that money goes toward grants that people like me apply for equipment for stuff like this. And this one came through a couple of years ago, and I got these wonderful coolers that are super, super rugged. Those black rubber toggles, you really kind of have to grab it and then push down a little bit and pull it off of that the plastic knob that it attaches to. It does take a little bit of effort. Hopefully the more we use it, the easier it'll get. But there'll be one of these on my front porch, 101 Pearly Gordon Road. And you can bring your stuff back to me and put it right on the porch and then just text me that you dropped it, which location. I'll get into the second one in a minute. The lab bottles do need to be kept cold, even while transporting them. The gelato jars don't have to be kept cold, but it'll help us out in the long run if everybody takes like a water bottle or a Gatorade bottle, soda bottle, empty it out, drink it, whatever, and then fill it most of the way with water and freeze that sucker. And then you've got a built-in ice pack that you can leave off at my house or in the other cooler that we're gonna have in Cavendish. And it'll help keep the whole cooler cold for everybody's samples until I can get to them. That would be really helpful. In years past, we've had people get ice cubes and just stuff the ice cubes in a Ziploc. That doesn't really work in the long run because it just gets wet. They sweat right through the bag. Sometimes it leaks, and then I have just a big puddle at the bottom of the cooler. Because the whole thing isn't filled top to bottom with ice. So if you can just use a water bottle, that would be great, or Gatorade bottle, soda bottle, something like that, just a little individual one, iced tea bottles, something like that would work great with a nice tight fitting cap. That would be super. And then, so what we're doing is everyone will get, I save and reuse my plastic garbage bags from year to year from a grocery store. So I will write your name on that, and in it, you'll have gelato jars for each site, and you'll also have a Ziploc, which will have your field forms in it. So if the field form, when you're done filling it out, pencil's great, nice and dark, fold it in half, stick it right in the Ziploc, seal it up. That way, if someone's water, their cap isn't on quite tight, or something leaks, or there's a lot of condensation, I can still use the field form because I have to write information on those field forms when I do my testing. Because those gelato jars are coming back here, and I will be using my handy dandy multi-parameter water probe. And from this little sucker, I'm going to be getting salinity, total dissolved solids, and conductivity. And that also kind of goes together in a larger picture for the state to see whether or not there's something going on at a site. So a nice tight fit on your gelato jar is good. Gelato jars. You don't have to fill it all the way to the tippy top. I'd say leave a good inch of head space, because that way there's room for the meter to go in without overflowing the jar. So leave a little bit of head space, at least halfway full, maybe 3/4 of the way through full would be terrific on the gelato jars. Just line up those threads really good. Let's see.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it. Interrupt right in there.
I raised my hand.
I see that.
So explain that again about the bottles with the tight fitting caps and things you said.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find one of my gelato jars here, and I think the only one that I had is the one from the. Yep, the only one that I had was the one that's in the slide, and that's being used for a water sample. So essentially, when you go to close up your gelato jar, come on, catch up. There you go. You can see that I've only filled this one up to just above the little Talenti symbol. I don't know if you can see that or not. But if you can fill it a good 3/4 of the way is great. If it's too high, if it's full right to the brim, when you screw on the top, it leaks. And also when I unscrew it and try to put my water probe in, I got to dump some off because the probe will just make it overflow. But when you're screwing the caps onto any of the bottles, we need to make sure that those threads are lined up tight. So if you have to kind of put it on, it feels a little cockeyed, back it up, put it back on, and just make sure that it's on straight, but also nice and snug. And that way we don't get leakage. That would be terrific.
Okay, the part, it was before that where you were talking about like the Gatorade bottle or the soda bottle, or putting that in the ice.
Yeah, for ice, to basically to keep samples cold during transport, and then when you drop them off. I just take like an empty Gatorade bottle, iced tea bottle, whatever, empty it, and then fill it 3/4 of the way with just tap water. Put a good, put the cap on nice and snug, and then freeze it. And then the next morning when you go out to do your samples, you got an ice pack built right in. And then if you leave it at my house and someone else grabs it, or I never get it back to you, it's just an empty soda bottle, and I'll recycle it at the end of the year. It's not
so
like
it just goes alongside of the bottle, right? I mean, you don't put the sample inside of it, right?
Right. That's just an additional, like instead of a freezer pack that you would put in your cooler to go to the beach or something.
Yep.
That's what we'll use instead.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So those grocery bags, you'll get it with some gelato jars that are, each one will be labeled with the site name that it goes to, mostly for my edification when I'm looking at 50 jars. So you'll get gelato jars, you'll get Ziploc bags with your lab bottles if you have lab sites. You'll also get the pH and phosphorus little test tabs in their bottles. And you'll get your field sheet. And I'm trying to make sure that everyone's going to have Ziploc bags as well. And when you return it, you're going to have the one Talenti gelato jar. You'll have the field sheet. So hang on to your pH test tabs and your phosphorus test tabs, your thermometer. That can stay with you. And you'll use that throughout the season. If you're running low on something, let me know. But you should have enough. Everyone should be getting a full cart. I think there's 10 tablets for each type of test. And if you're only doing 8 dips, you should be good. But when you drop it back off, you can use that grocery bag, put your gelato jar with sample water in it, your field sheet in a Ziploc, and your ice pack, and just drop that right off into one of the coolers. So there'll be one of those big coolers on my porch, and the other one will be, let me see if I can get back to that slide. Yeah, in Cavendish, right at the Cavendish-Ludlow town line, the Fletcher Farm Foundation was kind enough to offer up the use of this building. It's empty right now. They're in the process of, I guess, deciding what they're going to end up doing with it, but it's not being used right now. So where the red arrow is a little foyer there's a storm door on the front, and then there's this little foyer with a locked door to the rest of the building. And right inside that foyer will be the other big gray cooler. It'll be padlocked, bike locked right to the inside of the foyer. I think there's a pipe there that we lock it to. So it's not going anywhere. But that's the other spot that if you're sampling in Plymouth or Ludlow or Reading, or just that's where you happen to be closest to, make sure just give me a shout that, hey, I think we're going to drop in Cavendish this afternoon or tomorrow or whatever. And then I'll know either I'm going to go get them. I'll go get the samples, or I'll work with someone who's up in that area and coming down this way. So there'll be 2 different locations for coolers you could drop.
So I used to work there.
Oh, no kidding. In that building?
Used to be called Canterbury Farm.
Yes, she's called it Sharon. You must know Sharon Bixby.
I probably do. I worked there from 1983 to 88 as the cook.
Oh, that's wild. So it was a restaurant, or was it a?
No, it was an alcohol treatment program.
Oh, no, I was going to say a residential facility from the sound of it.
Right.
Nice.
And I was the cook there for almost 5 years.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, she's not on the call tonight. She had another activity. We'll have to meet up with her sometime.
Sure.
That's super cool. But it's a nice building. But it's again, it's unused right now. So there's a nice empty parking lot. Just pull right in, drop your stuff off, and scoot on out. And I'm also going to try to figure out if this seemed to work good last year, where for those folks who will find that location more convenient, I will probably bring your bags of resupply, because I'll be resupplying your Talenti jars and your lab bottles, and I'll be bringing them there and dropping them in that foyer, probably not in the cooler, but just in the foyer next to the cooler. So you can go grab your empties and then drop off your full ones when you're done with your dip. And that outer door, I don't think locks. It's just a storm door. Last year it was a little off its hinges, so just try to make sure it's snugged up tight, so it doesn't go flying in the wind. Let's see. And then I think just getting your gear. Is this gonna? I guess that's my last slide for this one. Okay. I'm gonna try stopping sharing. Where's that? Nope, that's that. How do I stop sharing? I'm sure I'll figure it out after I'm all done recording. We'll take a break in a second and do questions, and also get ready to shift to the lab bottle ones. But getting your gear to you, I'm going to start doing the non-lab sites first. I just got in the box of all the test tabs, just came in today. So I will be going through those this weekend and getting them sorted so that the non-lab sites, we can start getting you your stuff well in advance of that first dipping weekend. But essentially, as you drop off sample number 4, I think by the time we get into the 4th weekend of this, I should have 2 more sets of gelato jars for you. So you'll be dropping off and picking up at the same time. And then when you drop off sample number 6, couple weekends later, then I'll have gelato jars for sampling number 7 and number 8. I'll have the last 2 gelato jars for you. Because otherwise I would be up to my neck in gelato jars. If I had 8 jars for 50 sites, you do the math. That's more than I want to deal with. Let's see. So we can work on an individual basis for whatever works for you. You can either stop by my house to pick up when you drop off, or this initial batch of supplies. You can either stop by my house to grab it if you've done this before. If we're going to do a site visit anyway, like Randy and Mary Beth, if we're going to meet at Tolles Dam to show you how to get there, how to use the bottle on a stick, I'll just bring all your goodies then, and we'll just meet up, hand off, and go check out the site. The same with Emily and Kimberly. We'll do that too. Mike and Deb, if you want, where you're going, but if you want to do a quick demo with test run with the bucket, we can do that too. But we'll do that on a case-by-case basis. I don't have to take up your time here with that. Let's see. We'll do the bucket or the bottle on a stick as needed. And wow, I guess that was it for this. I'm trying to think if I missed anything. You guys who've done this before, catch me if I've missed anything or didn't explain something well. Or anybody who's new, if something was really wonky or just unclear, let me know.
Kelly, I did have a question.
Sure,
I think I know the answer, but when it comes to giving the samples, when we deliver them, we are not giving you the phosphorus or the pH. It is simply the gelato jar. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Because that's a good point, though. That's a little detail. When you're done getting your reading for the phosphorus and for the pH, when you're all done, just dump that water back out. It's inert. It's not going to pollute anything. It's just a little reagent. You can just dump that right back in the water or right on the ground next to you or whatever, kind of shake out the excess. You may want to rinse that bottle, that little annoying little tube that I put away a couple of times ago. It's really, really thin and narrow, so you may want to rinse that a couple times before and let it dry even before your next time out. Just kind of like leave it uncapped and rinsed in your bag. In years past, and you guys can tell me if this worked well, in years past I had an orange, it's a cinch sack, and basically it's like a little backpack with cords, and it has the Brat logo on it, and I could actually take a Sharpie marker and write your site name right on that. I tried doing it with little tiny flags on the cords. It was just really hard to read them. But you
I love the cinch sack.
Okay. I have them. I got almost all of them back last year. And I think if I write the site name right on it, that'll be way easier than trying to stuff that in a grocery bag. And what? So we'll just do it with the cinch sacks again this year. And then as you're going to pick up, you're looking for, I have this site, I have that site. If you have multiple sites, I may put 2 or 3 of those in one bag. No, don't scratch that. Ignore that. I think I just talked myself through that one. But yeah, okay. So the cinch sacks work pretty good with the site names on them. We'll do that then. Okay, great. And we're recording this, so I'll send it on out to everybody. Unfortunately, we have to sift through a whole hour of me yammering to get to what you're looking for. But does anybody have any other questions, especially new folks? Emily, is this all making sense? Bill?
Kelly?
Yeah.
I had a question about the storm sampling. Because I thought you had said for us to sample during the storm. But then you said not to.
Well, yes, we want to get a high flow, which is usually right after a pretty good rainstorm. Don't go out in the storm or at the beginning of the storm. You want that water to have had the rain to have had time to really fill up your stream and wash a bunch of gunk in so we can get a sense of it. Okay. If it's a flood, like, wow, that's up into the trees, it's behind that guy's house, lapping at his foundation. You don't want to go out when it's really like a tropical storm Irene.
Yeah. Okay.
Heavy runoff, spring runoff, go for it as long as you're safe. And don't go out in the middle of it because you want to give it time, but also make sure you're safe. Don't go out if it's thunder and lightning. If you can catch 1 or 2 this year, that would be great. If we can just catch 1, that's good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And again, like that little tiny stream that I showed the picture of Aldrich, it won't take much to make that high flow. So a little bit of rain, we'll go. I'll take Kathy out there and show her, and you might find that stream is peaking right about this time of year. And then come August, it might be not much more than a trickle. I know Money Brook that Catherine samples, that can be nearly dry in the warmest months, and yet Money Brook comes down off of such a steep slope that during Irene, it destroyed Route 100. If you've ever heard of the Pingree Flats flooding, go look up Pingree Flats, tropical storm Irene. Blasted it. That tiny little itty bitty trickle of a stream moved boulders the size of a Volkswagen Bug. It was massive. So it's you get to know your stream. So I hope that helped a little bit. Anybody else? Questions, thoughts? Emily, you've been awful quiet.
Kelly, are you providing small coolers again?
You know what?
Or-
I can for the lake sites. And I think the lake sites, I was doing coolers. Was that Deb who asked? Yeah. Because you guys have those little filters that have to stay frozen. So those really need the insulation. So I will probably be adding that as well.
This is Kate, actually, for the West Hill Recreation. That's okay. I didn't know if you were providing, because you had the coolers before, so I can always dig something up if need be, but no
Yeah.
worries. No worries.
Yeah, and coolers would be good. I think I have about 6 or 7 little coolers right now. The only other thing I could do, I'm not a big fan of styrofoam, but my friend Thomas, he was going to be on the call here. He does sampling on the Connecticut with me, and he works at the hospital, and they're always throwing away styrofoam coolers of all different sizes. So he has a lot of them that are about that big. They're lunchbox size. And those might be good for those of you with the lab sites if you need to put in your ice pack and keep things really cold for transport. I'm not too worried about the gelato jars staying cold because it's just me using my water probe, but those lab samples really need to stay chilled, refrigerated, because I have to take one of them and drip in sulfuric acid while it's cold. So me and my gloves and my mad scientist classes. So yeah, if people aren't too averse to styrofoam, I could certainly ask him for a handful of those, a dozen of those, and just put your name on it, and I'll make sure you get it with your first set of lab samples. How's that sound, Kate? You want to give that a shot, or do you want to use your own?
That sounds great. I just feel more comfortable with it being super cold.
Yeah. Okay. And that'll be a good use for those things. And then I found a fun way to reuse styrofoam after its life was done. So
Excellent.
and Deb's got to run. That's okay. That's cool. Anybody else? Let me make a note of that, by the way, so I don't forget. Coolers from Tom. And if nobody else has questions, I can stop the recording and we can. Oh, look at that. Hang on a second. Will it does. Oh, somebody. Shoot. Hey, Mitchell, how long have you been waiting? Are you still there? Dang it. It didn't give me any alert that and I was watching my screen, but it didn't give me any alert that you were waiting. Nothing major has changed, Mitchell, except that you won't need to do a storm sample separate. We're going to try to fold that into the 8 samples instead of having to do 8 plus 2 storm samples. We're going to fold those high water samples into the 8 that you're doing. But I did record this, so I'll make sure that you get it, okay? And that presumes I'm going to stop recording. Whoops, not cancel.